And welcome back to Daily Justice. I'm Dave Erickson. Our topic today is who gets the house in a divorce in Washington State. My guest is Mark Hodgson, family law attorney here in Spokane, Washington. Mark, what are the main factors that courts look at when deciding who gets the family home in the event of a divorce?
Well, thanks for a loaded and a completely big question that can only be answered in a half hour. No, it's very interesting. Washington is a community property state, which generally means that all property comes before the court and then it is divided equitably. Now, this is oftentimes misconstrued to think equally. Oftentimes it is, but it's equitably, which means fairly, okay? So what we have here is, let's just say, if you have two people that own a house, right? They've been married, say, 5, 6 years. They were married, they went, they both had jobs, they bought the house. It's time to split up, hopefully not 6 years later, but let's just say 6 years later, they're going to split it up. Then they split the equity and they either sell the house or one of them stays in the house. That can be done through agreement or through the courts or otherwise, but there's so many other factors that can go into it. So I'll let you keep going, but who gets the house? Well, sometimes it's who is it most convenient for, who can afford the house, who will benefit most. So for instance, if you have a primary parent with 2 children, then the parent who's not primary will likely be leaving the house. But if the primary parent can't afford the house, that doesn't do much good to leave them in it. So there's a lot of factors. But Washington State's pretty progressive in the fact that we don't just say mom gets a house. We don't just say dad gets a house. You get to go through and just sort of an analysis on each case, and each case is different.
So can couples agree on their own, or does the state have to get involved?
That is one of the best things that Washington State has going for it, is couples can agree to almost anything with regard to property. The only thing couples really can't agree on is child support, and even maybe some horrible parenting plans where, corporal punishment is allowed and expected or something like that. But you can't agree to things that are against the law. But like if you're going to say, look, I just want out of this marriage, take the house, even if it's a bad deal, you can agree to whatever you want. Which does come back to burn some people, because like somebody who's in a bad marriage and just wants out may give up their house just to be done with that person, and they may really regret it later. So the first thing I would tell someone is, yes, you can agree to whatever you want. However, you might want to talk to a lawyer before you agree, because, giving up your house, which is oftentimes one of the biggest assets in a marriage, can really, really harm you for things such as retirement or other things going on. Keep in mind, this is your house too. If you guys bought the house together, if you've put all this money and effort and time into this house, it's your house too. And you should be able to get a benefit out of that house, the same as the other person is getting a benefit, such as they get all the equity in the house.
But what happens if the house is underwater or there's significant debt and the couple's now deciding who gets it?
Well, the debt generally, like if it's upside down, a lot of times a short sale will stop the debt because it's your primary residence. So you can go ahead and make that up. But I mean, if it's upside down or underwater, that's an interesting question, because sometimes you could have, like, let's say Mild House had a 2.75 interest rate, right? So if you can afford the mortgage payment on that upside down house, maybe you want it. Maybe if you can stay in that house and just pay for it on a few years and hope that it goes up, or you can do some work on it and get it out from underwater, maybe you want it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need a short sale. Maybe you need a bankruptcy. Those are all things that need to go into it beforehand. So being upside down, sure, maybe you want it, maybe you don't, but sometimes you can live in it very cheaply if there's a low interest rate or something like that. Again, it's an analysis for the whole marriage. And what's interesting with that is also when you get into alimony, which is the old term now called maintenance, but like if you could put someone in a house that maybe upside down or with very little equity but has a very low payment, you might be able to reduce your own mortgage, your own maintenance payment, because they have less of a need. So that's why lawyers are actually helpful, is you can look at the big picture and more than one issue of, well, the house isn't worth anything, let's just get rid of it. Well, wait a second, how can we, maybe it's easy to refinance, maybe it's these things. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not as simple as, okay, you get to have it, or we both decide, or the court decides. It's more factors I think about.
Yeah, and sometimes, in anybody's divorce, maybe the other person would benefit greater from the house. Maybe it's just like, you take it, you need it. It's a place for you to live. It's cheap to live. Take it, Sometimes it's a great way to settle a divorce. People do get very attached to their houses, though. I will say that.
Emotional. You put your sweat, labor into it. There's a lot of emotion, history, memories.
It's your home. right? So it's your home. But I think one of the things I tell people, I don't know if I said this in our last ones that we did years and years ago, is that like you got to look at essentially the cost of a marriage. And sometimes the cost is not the cost of the house, it's the emotional cost of what arguing about some things are. And so if you think that you can lessen the emotional cost, even if it costs you a little money, maybe you're willing to give it up. And maybe it's the right thing to do. You never know. But I'd say it's a case-by-case basis. And I think as long as you go back to an equitable standard, which is fair, not necessarily equal, but fair, you can really get some nice results.
Mark, interesting topic. Thanks very much. For more expert legal insights or to get trusted help with your situation, visit HodgsonLawOffices.com or call the number on your screen to schedule your free consultation today. There's also a direct link below this video.